All right, this says more photos with disturbing backstories by the channel Don't Look at Me. This was requested by Underground. Let's go ahead and check it out. Photos with disturbing backstories. Oh, is this that? Is this that dude from the Disturbing video I watched? This guy looks familiar.
In April 2011 in Glasgow, Scotland, a 27-year-old woman named Linda Spence went missing.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I reacted to a Disturbing video a while back that talked about this lady, Linda. All right.
Linda masqueraded as a financial advisor and partook in many shady deals.
But that was on Disturbing's channel. This channel is, what's this channel name again? Don't Look at Me.
Linda put up this facade of running 2 successful businesses, including a mortgage broking company and a rental property establishment.
Yeah, Linda was shady.
In reality, she was not only in debt to traditional loaners, but also sketchier groups as well. Linda's businesses were bankrupt, and thus she was resorting to illegal and fraudulent activities to try and claw her way out of this hole she was in. It was said that Linda's boyfriend even did business in illegal areas, and that's how she met 2 criminals named Colin Coates and Philip Wade.
Oh, I remember those guys.
Change Linda's life for
Crazy
the worse.
guys.
Colin Coates in particular is a very interesting / weird individual. His friends and family all described him as a sort of geek. Colin was able to find a successful career in investment banking and built up a significant amount of wealth. He would go on to marry and have 3 kids, but in the late 90s, he was arrested for hitting his wife. At some point, he and his family moved from London to Glasgow, where Colin sought a new route for his life. Instead of investment banking, Colin now pursued property development, where he also found immense success. But it was around this time where
I remember this story from a Disturbing, but this is by a different channel, so we'll check. Well, I'm trying to remember everything, but it was a while ago I reacted to the Disturbing video.
Found himself using various illegal substances and drinking in excessive amounts. These new vices caused Colin to become more and more violent and aggressive towards everyone in his life, leading to
Colin
his divorce.
was a sus
and due to
guy.
all of the success he had in life, he became extremely egotistical. Colin's personality and life spun wildly out of control, and eventually he came into contact with the other man we mentioned, Philip Wade. And it's through Philip that Colin met Linda. Linda told Colin about her situation and her businesses. After some coercing, Linda was able to convince Colin to loan her some money. At first, the amounts were relatively small, not exceeding more than the mid-4 figures. But quickly, the total amount owed back to Colin was nearing 6 figures. Linda obviously did not have the funds to pay back Colin, so instead, she provided him with an exclusive investment opportunity. Linda was sort of selling this like, hey, I wasn't going to let you in at first because it's so profitable, but because I owe you, I'll give you a shot. The project was an airport property.
Yeah, Linda got herself involved with some bad individuals. Not good.
That for all intents and purposes looked pretty promising. Colin hopped on it, believing that he would make back the money Linda owed him many times over. However, after he put in more money, Colin came to the realization that this was all a scam that Linda was using to keep him from freaking out over the money he had already
Oh my
lost.
God.
It was March 2011 when Colin finally understood that he was being played. And again, I want to make it perfectly clear and remind you guys that Colin was extremely arrogant at this point and wildly egotistical. Pair that kind of personality with some alcohol and you just get a really fragile and pissed off man. Colin's ego just couldn't handle the fact that he had been scammed. So he confided in his friend Philip Wade, who had also been scammed by Linda in the past. They came up with a plan to kidnap Linda and force her to pay what she owed. The two
If you want to, Kevin, that's fine, man. Let me know when you upload it. I'll check it out.
Carried out this plan in April of the same year and bound her to a chair in an abandoned building. Linda was subjected to 2 weeks of extreme punishment. Unfortunately, I cannot actually describe what they actually did, but it was very bad and only got worse as the days went on.
Yeah, Linda made a huge
mistake.
mistake.
Allowed to rise from her chair, so she was even sitting in her own waste. Furthermore, she lost a number of fingers as a result of the
Hell
incident.
no.
In the meantime, Colin and Philip were using Linda's phone to message her friends and family so that they would not suspect anything. Fast forward to late April, Colin came into contact with one of Linda's other clients who had loaned her nearly £200,000. This other client was named John, and according to him, Linda had paid back about £50,000, but Colin was not buying it and claimed he had received much more than $50,000. Colin screamed at John, saying that the money he received was actually his. He revealed hints at what he was doing to Linda and threatened to do the same to John if he wouldn't give up the money he received from Linda. Ultimately, when Philip and Colin believed that they weren't going to get much more progress out of the situation, they ended Linda's life.
Imagine paying like £50,000 or dollars back to someone and they still just end you. She owed a lot of money. Well, I mean, like, I feel bad for Linda. I remember this story. Like, I really feel bad for Linda, but you don't get yourself involved in with shady people and then take their money. That's just a recipe for disaster, as we see here.
After disposing of her body, the two no longer kept in contact with Linda's family, so they grew worried and reported her missing in May of 2011. Now, it turns out that Linda was actually a police informant, so when authorities realized that she was missing, they promptly set out to find out what happened.
She was a police informant?
When they stumbled upon
I
the
forgot
name
about
Colin
that.
Coates. So back to that other guy named John who Linda was also paying back. He actually went to police after that meeting he had with Colin. With this new information, investigators were eventually able to locate the building where Linda was being held.
What's up, Samuel? I'm good, bro.
They realized that Colin and Philip had attempted to scrape the entire area clean of any DNA, but they failed. Investigators were able to find a minute trace of Linda's blood in the room. Furthermore, during the time that Linda was being held there, Colin got the help of two small-time criminals to watch over Linda when Colin and Philip couldn't. Police were able to identify these other two criminals, and they immediately spilled the beans about Colin when they were arrested. But Colin and Philip denied any involvement in Linda's disappearance and murder. It was during the investigation into Colin when investigators came upon this rather unsettling video footage.
Underground says some of these men's head shape is hilarious. I know, they're like Mr. Egghead. Why are they both bald? That's interesting too. Why are they both bald? Like, what's going on?
I'll do the wetsuit and the Sean Connery. I have the booster in my section.
I remember this guy Colin.
I went up to drop off some.
He was a weird. He was a weird person.
And as I went to drop off the inspiration, she handed me something back. So I went and left for a few hours. So I made March. Absolutely tarted. Turned up at the door later on.
Yes.
Hey, Paranormal Gaming, thank you for the donation, man. Appreciate it.
Not be named. Was that right? That's when I turned up. And I turned up just in a pen of stockings.
What a weird man. What the heck?
Up on the during funerals or mitzvahs, call 1-800-SUPER-PANY. See you. Bye.
Ultimately, the two men were found guilty. Colin received a life sentence with a minimum term of 33 years.
It's just weird. Colin's acting like such a tough guy, and then there's videos of him dressed up in women's clothing. Just a little odd.
While Philip got life with a minimum of 31 years. At the time, police couldn't locate Linda's body, and neither culprit was willing to share any info either. Fast forward to 2023, Colin finally admitted to killing Linda and sent a letter to her mother which said, "I feel compelled to clarify some background for Patricia Spence, with her plight of finding her daughter's remains. Linda's parents' animus towards me is expected. I tortured and killed her daughter." In that letter, he also revealed the location of Linda's remains. However, it seems as though authorities couldn't find anything when they searched the area.
What the hell is this?
Flesh is a very strange YouTuber, and
I've never heard of this YouTuber before. Dolly Flesh? What the hell?
person, to say the least. His original channel has been deleted, but there is another that archives some of his videos. Dolly Flesh did create a second channel where he mainly focused on Let's Plays, which is still up. But the channel has been abandoned as the most recent upload was made 3 years ago.
3 years
to give
ago.
you a taste of this guy, watch this clip.
Oh, this is a dude?
Another video, I claimed I was looking forward to losing my...
Bro, what kind of haircut is this? I'm sorry. What kind of haircut is this, bro? Like, what is going on?
To a forward hot girl. I meant to say a forward slutty silicone sex. I'm the type of guy that never wants to have kids. But if you decide to have babies,
Oh, hell nah.
you don't have to worry about it starving or being killed.
What?
How often will you find a girlfriend that's custom designed and perfect the way you look, or even one without arms and legs? Maybe you'll get tired of screwing her and her plastic bum and want to move to her ear canals.
What the
stretchier
hell,
real
bro?
human ear canals. If you don't have a
Why would you want a girlfriend with no arms or legs and now you're talking about ear canals? Bro, what is wrong with you?
new fetish, then you won't have to worry about her pooing or farting all the time.
I'm not even gonna lie, I was sort of dying of laughter when I first watched that video. Some people thought that this guy was just making a satire account at first, but later videos would suggest otherwise. Dolly Fletch's real name is Leighton Allen LaBoot. His main channel videos primarily consisted of stop-motion clay animations, which contained some level of disturbed moments as well. Additionally, he often touched on morbid topics, including murder, assault, animal abuse, and more. One of the characters that frequently appeared in his videos...
Wait, he did claymations, but like super
I
weird?
hope his man is doing alright. Kinda worried. He's usually in the chat.
Kevin, he's probably at work, bro. Like I said.
was
He's probably
named
at
Itchy
work.
the Clown, who is based off of John Wayne Gacy. Now, let's
Oh,
take a look
hell
at a
no.
Twitter post he made on May 6th, 2019, where he mentioned that he wanted
Bro's a freaking serial killer who makes claymations, no doubt.
to purchase some hamsters. About a week later, he uploaded a video to his YouTube channel where he showed off the hamsters that he ended up buying. The very next day, he
Bro.
uploaded a video torturing and killing them. It seems that the videos are more or less
What? He uploaded that to YouTube of him killing hamsters that he bought and torture? What? No wonder his channel got taken down. That is messed up.
lost media now, which is probably a good thing. And on screen, you can get an idea of just what the video showed. The guy was really in the head, which gets you thinking about all of those
What?
graphic and gory claymation videos he made. Was he
Microwave to death. The video was immediately taken down. Fans contacted authorities for his arrest. Some of his fans had previously. Stabbing and amputation. That is the first red flag for freaking serial killers is hurting animals. That is a big red flag.
using YouTube as a way to vent? And if he was led to his own vices for long
That's
enough,
crazy.
would he have escalated from animals to humans? On May 25th, 2020, Dolly Flesh was arrested for the murder and abuse of those hamsters.
Oh, he was
but
arrested.
He was released after covering a $1,000 bail. His trial didn't take place until August 16th, 2021, and during his questioning, when he was asked
Yeah, I'm sorry. I would never trust a person with a haircut like this. Hell no. Hell no.
why he did it, Dolly simply said he was bored and found it entertaining. His main YouTube channel peaked out at about 2.4k subscribers before being terminated by YouTube on January 14th, 2020.
Wow. Oh, I think I've heard of this story before.
Anatoly
This is
Moskvin
this is
a Russian
crazy.
former
This is
linguist,
crazy.
philologist, and historian who had taken an interest in cemeteries and the macabre from a young age. For instance, he often stopped by cemeteries at night with his friends as a child. An odd hobby to say the least, regardless of your age. This interest quickly evolved into a fascination with dead bodies. This would also lead to Anatoly developing an interest in dolls. Later in life, Anatoly found happiness in collecting dolls after realizing that they have a similar lifeless feeling.
I think I remember this guy. This guy's freaking weird.
To them. The act of collecting dolls itself is obviously harmless, but simply collecting them was not enough for Anatoly. Eventually, he made the decision to stop by a cemetery and dig up a body, where he then turned the body into a doll. When Anatoly's strange and honestly disgusting interests received attention, an article was written about him. It also contains several statements made by Anatoly himself. In this article, he stated his enjoyment towards the dead began when he saw the funeral ceremony for an 11-year-old girl. At the funeral, he was forced to kiss the girl's face as a sign of respect. After graduating from Moscow State University, Anatoly amassed a massive collection of over 60,000 books and documents going over burial rituals, the occult.
60,000 documents? That's a lot of freaking books. Holy crap.
And anything related to death. Anatoly led a lonely life, never marrying. It's believed that he never even went on a date with anyone before. It was only on November 2nd, 2011 when Anatoly was arrested after police were tipped off about some vandalized graves.
What a
Someone
weirdo.
stated that they saw someone who appeared similar to Anatoly desecrating the headstones of various graves in a number of cemeteries. When police investigated Anatoly's living space, they found 26 bodies/dolls, but it should be stated that Anatoly was reported to have destroyed the graves of over 150 people. When investigators entered Anatoly's
26? I kind of remember this story from, I watched some video in the past a long time ago, but it was 26? Oh my gosh. He dug up 26 graves, but they're thinking he actually did over 100? Yo.
residents, they discovered the human dolls placed in positions
that
of
is
daily
crazy
life, like sitting on the couch, for example. The crazy part was, Anatoly lived with his parents who claimed to have had no knowledge of what he was doing. Or rather, they knew about his doll hobby, but they didn't know that these dolls were of corpses. It's also believed that Anatoly would sleep with the dolls, which were often of little girls. In a journal, Anatoly wrote, "I kissed her
weirdo.
once, then again, then again." Another interesting point is that investigators actually did not realize the bodies were mummified corpses until Anatoly said so. They truly just looked like dolls at first. It was later determined by medical professionals that Anatoly had a form of paranoid schizophrenia and he was deemed unfit to stand trial. He was ultimately transferred to a psychiatric clinic. Anatoly later informed an interviewer that he simply wanted to revive the deceased children with science and black magic since he felt bad for them. He even refused to apologize.
He wanted to revive them, bro. I don't think they're coming back. Unfortunately, I don't think they're coming back, bro.
To the parents of the children whose graves he desecrated since he believed he was helping. Anatoly escalated these exchanges by accusing these parents of abuse for leaving their kids out in the cold via their graves when he brought them into his own home.
What is this? Drew?
On November 22nd, 2003, 22-year-old Drew Shoden was working her shift at the Victoria's Secret store at Columbia Mall in Grand Forks, North Dakota. It was around 4 p.m. when Drew finished her shift and decided to shop around the mall for a new item.
Was she kidnapped?
A purse. And it would be in the store where she made the purchase when we get the final moments Drew was seen alive.
What?
After completing her purchase and exiting the mall, Drew went to the parking lot and made her way towards her 1994 Oldsmobile Cutlass. At the same time, Drew was also talking with her boyfriend on the phone. The two were less than 5 minutes into their conversation when Drew's
I think she was kidnapped or abducted by someone. She had to have been.
Boyfriend Chris heard Drew saying, "Okay, okay." The call disconnected, and initially, Chris didn't think anything of this. He simply thought that he had lost signal. Over 3 hours later, around 7:30 p.m., Chris received a phone call. Upon picking it up, he realized the call was being made from Drew's phone, but after answering, no one spoke on the other end. Eventually, Chris just hung up. Again, he didn't think anything sinister was happening at that moment, but at this point, he was a little bit concerned. It wasn't until the next day when Drew failed to show up for work when police were contacted.
Oh gosh, that's not good. I wonder if this lady Drew was ever found or if she just like disappeared and they never found her.
Law enforcement realized that Drew was last seen in the
Yo.
mall, so they suspected that perhaps she may be trapped somewhere within the building. They looked over the footage of Drew making her purchase and traced her steps into the parking lot. To their surprise, they found Drew's vehicle still there. Suspicions grew as law enforcement now suspected foul play. After Chris informed them about the phone call he had with Drew, they believed that Drew was threatened by someone with a weapon when she approached her vehicle.
Oh my God.
There, she was forced into another car and taken away. Then, a little over a week later, police paid a visit to one of their suspects who had a criminal history. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr., the 50-year-old man who lived with his mother, was a registered sex offender. Alfonso
I know, it is
had recently
sad, bro.
completed a 20-plus year sentence. If you recall, I shared that there was an additional phone call made the same day that Drew disappeared. Police were able to track that call down to an area near Fisher High School in Fisher, Minnesota. Alfonso lived not far from this location, and the fact that this guy was around minors at a high school in the first place after getting out of prison is also very concerning. During his questioning, Alfonso did state that he was at the Columbia Mall on November 22nd. However, he said he was in the theater watching a movie called Once Upon a Time in Mexico. This is where his story falls apart, as the theater was not showing this movie at the time. If the fact that Alfonso was highly likely to reoffend and was in the same location as Drew on the day she disappeared wasn't enough, police found a receipt for a knife that Alfonso recently purchased as well. The weapon listed on the receipt was later found in Alfonso's possession, resting in a container of cleaning solution.
Oh no.
The discovery of the knife also led to Drew's blood on another knife being discovered in Alfonso's vehicle. Fast forward to April 17th, 2004, Drew's body was finally discovered.
Oh,
it was
no.
located in Crookston, Minnesota, which was the same city where Alfonso lived with his mother. It was only discovered after large piles of snow had finally melted. Drew's body was partially clothed, with her hands tied behind her back. Near her body was also a shopping bag, suggesting that she may have died of suffocation. There were clear signs that she had been. She also had knife wounds around her body. Medical examiners weren't 100% sure how Drew died.
That's freaking
but
terrible.
They stated that it could have been one of the three, either a major neck wound, suffocation, or exposure to the elements. Something interesting to note about this case is that the abduction took place in North Dakota, but Alfonso crossed state lines into Minnesota to commit the actual murder. Why is this relevant? Well, this turns the case into a federal matter.
Nice,
Still,
Ryan.
You might wonder what difference that makes. So North Dakota and Minnesota both lack a death penalty, but being that this is now a federal crime, the death penalty is now on the table. On August 30th, 2006, Alfonso was convicted of kidnapping and taking the life of Drew Shoden. On February 8th, 2007, he was sentenced to death. However, Alfonso would never actually die. In October of 2011, Alfonso's attorneys filed a new motion that claimed he was mentally disabled. Then in 2021, the same judge that sentenced Alfonso to death overturned his sentence.
What?
Then 2 years after that, in March, prosecutors made the announcement that they were going to drop the death penalty that they were previously seeking for Alfonso, and instead he was sentenced to life without parole on May 18th, 2023.
Well, at least he's in prison for life. I mean, he's not going to get out. He's going to die in prison, so that's good at least.
Robert Ben Rhodes, aka the Truck Stop Killer, has been convicted for
Who's this creepy dude? What the heck are you wearing, bro?
90s, but he is believed to have had over 50 female victims in total. His most notorious crime...
50 victims? Oh my god. So this is a freaking serial killer. Over 50 victims? That's crazy.
Involved a 14-year-old named Regina Walters and her 18-year-old boyfriend Ricky Jones. Regina had run away from home in February of 1990, and around that same time, Robert Rhodes had stumbled upon the couple on the side of the road.
Oh no.
Robert was a truck driver at the time and saw that the...
Guys, how many videos have I watched on my channel here about hitchhiking? Don't hitchhike. Don't get a ride with someone who you don't know. Just walk. Hitchhiking is very just not safe. Don't do it.
the two were hitchhiking. Noticing that both were on the younger side, he saw this as a prime opportunity to claim 2 more lives. Regina's mother later revealed to law enforcement that her daughter ran away as a result of an argument that the two had. She was remorseful and said she wanted Regina to come home after reporting her as missing. Now, Regina actually ran away from home.
Oh my gosh, imagine getting in an argument with your daughter. She runs away with her boyfriend and then you never see her again. As the mother, you would just feel absolutely terrible. Your daughter ran away because you got into an argument with her and then she just never comes home. That'd be so terrible for the mom.
Home a number of times in the past, but each time she would eventually return before anyone got worried. But anyway, back to Robert and his encounter with the couple. Robert agreed to driving Ricky and Regina to their destination, and by this time, Robert was believed to have already had experience with abducting and murdering people. Right after the two climbed inside of the truck and shut the doors, hit the fan. Robert drew a gun and shot Ricky to death before dumping his body on the side of the road. As for Regina, she was kept alive so that Robert could use her to satisfy some degenerate desires he had. The year prior, Robert had actually done more or less the exact same thing to another couple. Those victims' names were Douglas Sikowski and Patricia Walsh. Robert later learned about the missing persons report that was issued for Regina. So what this man would do was call Regina's father and taunt the man. He described the things that he was doing to Regina, and he found a new form of pleasure from making Regina's family miserable.
So kidnapping this poor girl wasn't enough. He would literally call the parents of her and be like, I have your daughter, and just like, oh man, that'd be... Imagine being the mom or the dad, getting those phone calls. Oh, that would be so hard.
So he kept Regina alive longer than his past victims. Robert also pretty much cut off all of Regina's hair and took this photo of her in a black dress.
Oh, I've seen this photo before. Yeah, this photo has been floating around on YouTube scary crime videos for a long time. I didn't know it was this story. Yeah, I've seen this photo before.
Photo has gone on to become one of the most well-known and eerie true crime images.
I've seen this before.
It also marks the final moments of Regina's life as Robert strangled her to death shortly after taking it. Regina's remains were left to decompose at that exact location.
You
there
sick
are a
son of a bitch
that accompany this one, and in some you can see bruises and such along Regina's body. Her remains were not found until late September of 1990 in that abandoned barn located near Greenville, Illinois. Medical officials believe that...
Oh God, Ellen, I live in Greenville, Illinois. I live in Illinois, but I don't think... I'll have to look up. I don't know where Greenville is. Greenville, Illinois. Where the heck is that at? Is that Southern Illinois?
Regina was killed around March of 1990. As for Ricky's remains, they were found in May of that same year. Robert Rhodes was arrested on April 1st, 1990 near Casa Grande, Arizona. A highway patrol...
This dude, Robert, he had to have gotten the death penalty. Over 50 victims? I mean, I really hope he did.
A trooper came across Robert's truck with its hazard lights on and stopped to investigate. When the trooper took a look inside of the vehicle, he noticed a nude woman screaming for her life. She was also handcuffed. There was no way for Robert to explain his way out of this situation. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, assault, and unlawful imprisonment.
He got caught.
He was brought in, he almost escaped from the trooper's vehicle.
How many more victims would this crazy son of a bitch have if he never got caught? Probably hundreds.
After digging into Robert's history some more, investigators picked up on a pattern and decided to look through his residence. That's where they found evidence of Robert being a serial killer. Robert was convicted in 1994 and was sentenced to life without parole at Menard Correctional Center. But in 2005, he was extradited to Utah, then to Texas, where he pleaded guilty in order to avoid the death penalty.
Wow. It's crazy. All right, guys, I'll leave a like on this. More photos with disturbing backstories by Don't Look at Me. Those were some freaking crazy stories there.